Welcome to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, podcast for innovators and problem solvers talking all things small business, entrepreneurship, and workforce development.
Today, we have a digital dynamo. He not only whips up hard-hitting videos and eye-popping designs, but he also works his magic behind the scenes editing our very own podcast. We are excited to have Wade with Lamplighter Creative on our podcast, sharing his journey from the urban jungle to the big sky. Wade, it is awesome to have you with us. Let's dive into your story and share some of your digital brilliance. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, and community development.
Welcome, Wade. We are
so much.
beyond jazzed to have you on today. Is it weird being on this side of our podcast?
Yeah, very weird.
What do you think it's going to be like editing it?
I think it's going to be really short because I'm going to remove so much of what we say.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, well, I'm just not going to mess up, so it's just going to be perfect. I don't really have to edit.
That's a good point.
Flawless.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be extra long because I'm really confident about what we say, or it's going to be really short because I just chopped half of it and removed
Chopped. It's like when we had Steve on and he was like, you can cut this out and cut this out. And it was like all the meat of the podcast.
Like, well,
Like,
we'll just
no.
keep all of it in and,
Yeah.
and you saying that. That's great.
It's like, great, now it's
so
awkward
funny.
because we left it and we said remove it.
But it's cool.
Yep.
It's cool. So Wade, let's just dive right in. We love asking our guests, as you know, where they're from. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Big Sky. So Big Sky, urban jungle, Big Sky.
I just
wait,
like
wait,
the
wait.
urban jungle because
Yep.
you haven't always lived here.
It's true.
But wait, tell us Big Sky, like in Billings or?
Yeah, so
Okay.
grew up, born and raised in Billings, been here my whole life until college, and then once I graduated from college, came back.
Well, do you want to dive into some of those details?
Oh, sure. Already?
Yeah, already. Let's
Cool.
dive right in.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to go out of state for college. I was pretty set on going to a small liberal arts school. I had no idea what I wanted to be. I thought I was going to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Until I took calculus my senior year, and that ruined that dream for me.
It's funny how classes do that.
I know.
You know, I
I
thought I was
know.
going to be a lawyer and I took some poli-sci and I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't want to have to remember all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
So
I like reading, but I don't want to read that much. Yeah, so I visited a handful of schools in Washington as well as kind of on the East Coast, but ended up going to Wabash College in Crawfordsville, Indiana.
How does one find that?
It's a really good question. It starts with my grandpa. He went there. That's actually where it starts and ends. He went there. My older brother also went there, and so we got to spend 3 years together there, which is awesome. But we read a book called Colleges That Change Lives, and I remember if you talk to my grandpa about it, he'll talk to you for a really long time about it. But I think I was an 8th grader, and I talked to my grandpa. I said, Grandpa, I'm really stressed out about college. I need to start
At 8th grade.
thinking. Yeah.
Okay,
It
great.
might have been sooner, but for some reason,
I guess
just,
that's an insight into your childhood.
yeah, definitely trying to always be better than my brother. And,
Because you guys were close in age, it sounds like.
yeah, he's a year and a half older than me, but only 1 grade.
Okay.
So, yeah, always trying to be better than him. He's a lot smarter than me and super talented, but I do my best to kind of carve my own path now. But anyway, so we read a book called Colleges That Change Lives, all about liberal arts schools. And Wabash, it was funny because there's pictures of us as kids wearing Wabash polos and sweaters. And so we grew up like, we'll never go to Wabash. Like, that's ridiculous.
But we're wearing the,
But
we're
we-
repping the gear.
It was kind of prophetic, I guess, and my grandpa knew. And so he, there's all these pictures of us wearing the clothing, but we never thought we'd go. And then we visited when I was a junior in high school. My brother was a senior. We visited a bunch of schools, We get to Wabash. We're like, dang, we kind of like it here. I don't want to admit it, but we kind of like it.
Dang it, Grandpa, why'd you have to be right?
I know, exactly. So ended up being the best financial aid. It just made sense. And so the rest is history. Went to Wabash.
And did you guys graduated high school from?
Senior high.
Okay, Billings.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I walked to my elementary school, rode my bike to middle school, or took the public bus.
Okay.
And then
I've never
walked
done
to
that
high
here.
school. Yeah, you know, the public bus gets a hard rap, but I think it's all right.
Yeah.
I
They're
should start
newer.
taking
They
it
look
again.
nice.
Yeah, they look
the
nice.
buses look nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here you are at Wabash
Wabash College. Yes.
College.
Say that like 10
And
times
you're
fast.
like, oh, maybe I'll be an engineer, maybe I won't. What got you interested in digital media?
I still had no idea what I wanted to do after I decided that calculus ruined engineering for me.
So was this senior high school or senior college?
Senior high school.
Got it.
And so I get to Wabash, and I remember having phone calls with my advisor, and he's asking me, like, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And I had no idea. And I picked my freshman intro class was on the Coliseum. And I love history, and I love kind of world history especially. And so I was interested in the Coliseum, sounded cool. So I took that class. The same professor taught Latin. Shout out to Owen, who was on a couple episodes ago. I loved Latin and just kept taking classics
Wait, did
courses.
you guys go to school together?
No.
No. Okay.
There was no... Owen is...
I'm like, he's older than you.
Yeah, he's a little bit older than me. But there's no Latin in high school in Billings, as far as I know. Maybe in private schools, but definitely not in public school anymore. So that's kind of sad. Yeah, so I took a bunch of classics courses, and I ended up making a podcast, funny enough. And the podcast was about history of a building on campus that was very polarizing. People either hated it or loved it.
Oh.
And turns out it had a really interesting history about there's the same building go back and listen to the podcast, I guess. But I don't remember where it is, but there's the exact same building in Crawfordsville, Indiana, as in, I think I want to say in Italy.
Love that. That's called something, and I can't remember what it's called, but when it's like there's something here and in Europe, there's like a name for that, because there's some other locations that have like the same building or whatever here too, in like weird spots.
Yeah. And so it's just this super bizarre building that had some really cool history and is actually designed by the guy who designed the Oval Office in the White House.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And so, you know, this building that, to be honest, I did not like. And part of the reason is because that's where the Independence ate, and I was a fraternity man. Oh. So right away, I didn't like it because I was in a fraternity. But anyway, so I didn't like this building. But then the more research I did, I spent a lot of time in the archives at Wabash. They have a really extensive archive collection. The more and more time I spent researching and crafting this story, like, wow, this building is actually really cool. And so I had a ton of fun making this podcast.
What's the podcast name?
It's called Wabash's Taj Mahal.
Ooh.
And then I colon something else. I don't remember the rest of it. History of the Spark Center, I want to say. But it's on my SoundCloud, so check that out if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll share it. We can't wait.
Yeah, listen to it. That's my first one. So
History of the what?
History of the Sparks Center.
Sparks Center.
Named after Frank Hugh Sparks. Yeah. But I had a ton of fun making this podcast, and I actually ended up winning a couple awards. Funny enough with it. Yeah, so I got to pay for part of my semester with the money I got for this podcast. And my professor, I got into it because my Latin professor, we talked about podcasts all the time. And so we shared a love for podcasts. And so I'm making this project, and it's like, you should make a podcast.
Can you give us the year too? Just a little bit of history. So because podcasts haven't always been a thing. So if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, I don't know how old do you think I am, but this would have been... I don't know. This would have been my freshman year of college, which is in 2018.
Okay,
cool. Oh my God.
2018, 2019.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
Not that long
that was
ago.
My freshman year of college, too.
I was already graduated.
Yeah, podcasts were definitely
they're
entering
really,
the heyday.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking if you were, which you're not my age, clearly, because I'm like, they weren't really overly popular yet. They were there. They just weren't like as popular as now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so made this podcast, had a lot of fun. My professor was kind of like, hey, you're kind of good at this. You should keep doing it. And so I made a couple more podcasts for other classes as final projects. I ended up editing the both podcasts for my school all for 3 years. And then, so that's kind of how I got into digital media in general, was podcasting. So it's kind of a full circle moment that I'm editing podcasts now, which is pretty cool. But I also did a few video projects and a ton of photography. And that started with a photography class my sophomore year. And then when I went to New York for a semester, I made 3 photo books. And so it started with podcasting, then photography, and then a little bit of video. And now I'm doing a little bit of everything.
Nice. So that's where my urban jungle came in, because we got to throw in the Big Apple whenever we can.
Right. But so we want to get to all of that, but you've glossed over some things. It's like, casual. So you're at the same school with your brother. So you guys must be close if you're like cool to go to school together, do that thing. So I want to hear more about that. And I want to hear more about the fraternity.
Yep.
Right. I said that right. Because we didn't have that where I went at Rocky. I'm like, what is that? Our school is so small. Like we were all just together. So I want to hear about that.
Yeah, definitely. So Wabash is actually really small too. It's an all male school. I believe there's only one other all male school, a small liberal arts school in the U.S. So it's only about 1,000 people. So it's really small too and really tight knit.
And our kids from that, like that go to that school, are they mostly U.S. students? Are they international? Yeah,
there's a pretty sizable international population, and then a handful of kids from all over the U.S. But I'd say the majority is from the Midwest. Mm-hmm. But before I get into fraternity stuff, I will say Paul and I Paul's my brother. We weren't super close before college. Definitely always competing, and we're pretty different. If you've ever met Paul, we
haven't met Paul. Give us why? What makes you guys different? I get it, siblings. I'm close with mine, but we want to know. We want to know the details. Wade.
You would really like Paul. I think he's awesome, but he is.
Just wait, we have a surprise. No, I'm kidding.
He'd be a good guest for the podcast. Honestly, he'd probably have more interesting stories than me. But so he is also very creative. He is a professional knitter, and costume designer and costume creator. So he's worked all over the U.S. I guess not all over, but in Alabama, Santa Fe, Indiana, New York. So he's worked in a handful of places making costumes, and also getting into designing costumes as well. But then on the side, he's always knitted. And so my mom wrote a knitting book when we were kids. My mom loved knitting when we were really young. So she wrote a knitting book. I should know the name of it so I can shout it out, but I don't.
Sorry, Wade's mom.
Sorry, Mom. So Paul got really into knitting. I never did. I think that was kind of a sibling thing. It's like, if Paul does it, I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
Do you know what they say, though? There's like studies out there that people who knit have lower chances of getting Alzheimer's.
Wow. I believe it.
I'm not. This is not fact checked.
It's Kayla checked.
But I believe it because you're constantly stimulating your brain.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And if you see my mom anywhere, she's usually knit. If there's a break, most people check their phones. She's knitting.
No, I love that. Yeah. It's better than checking your phone.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Does she go to the yarn bar?
Oh, yeah. Paul actually works at the yarn bar when he's here. Yeah. Cool. Yep. So
he travels a lot then.
If travels a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. So because theater is it's all based on seasons, during the year he was just in Alabama in Montgomery for Alabama Shakespeare
Festival?
Yeah, so Paul worked in Alabama during the theater like show year, and then he worked in Santa Fe during the festival season in the summer.
And he makes their costumes?
Yep, makes costumes.
Wow.
Yep, but then during all that time, every free moment he's knitting. He knitted a few hats for a Disney Plus show.
Cool.
And I don't remember what it is. But yeah, anyway, so Paul's super creative and really smart and awesome.
You're both creative, which is cool. Like,
Yeah.
but using it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, we look nothing alike. I have curly, like, light brown hair, and he has straight black hair like yours, Marcel.
Okay,
Like, it's
great,
just, like,
yeah.
straight black. And so people never know we're siblings. And then my little sister looks just like me, even though she's 4 years younger. And so our whole lives, we tried to do everything different. And then we both ended up at Wabash and grew really close there. We went to El Chato is our favorite Mexican restaurant out there.
Okay.
Every week we'd go Friday night. We would get
Little brother
a
day.
margarita, and just debrief on the week. And we grew really close there, which is awesome. And
Were you both in the fraternity together?
we were in different fraternities.
Oh.
Yeah.
How many were on the campus? I have to know.
How big is this school?
This
Like
school
1,000.
is tiny.
Yeah.
It's 1,000
It's
kids.
like Rocky, but a
So
little
do
smaller.
all the kids join a fraternity or sorority?
Most-
oh, no, it's
most
all
do.
fraternity
It's all
because it's all
fraternity.
boys.
Yep, no sororities, to many Wabash student dismay. When I first went out there, there's a myth, and I'm sorry for any Wabash guys listening if there are. They say women come in buses to campus every weekend, and that's just not true. Usually it's just guys playing video games and hanging out on the weekend. No,
Building that strong like brotherhood, right?
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. Brotherhood is
Okay.
definitely a huge thing at Wabash, but there's 10 fraternities, ranging in like 20 to 60, maybe 80 guys each.
So it's like almost the whole
Most of the
body.
it used to be like 3/4. Now it's more like 2/3, which is still quite a
lot.
bit.
Yeah.
Like definitely less Greek life, like in recent years. But yeah, a lot of people in fraternities. Paul was a Phi Delta, or he is a Phi Delta, I should say. You
Phi
are
Delta.
always a brother of the fraternity when you
Oh.
leave. So my brother is a Phi Delta Theta, and I am a Lambda Chi Alpha.
Ooh.
Yeah, fancy.
So fancy.
Yeah, we that was one of the big reasons we actually loved Wabash, is when we visited, we stayed at Lambda, and they're just super cool guys, and yeah, just fell in love with it.
What was it like being in a fraternity? I'm so curious
Yeah.
because like we didn't have them. So I'm like, do you all live in the house, like in the movies, or
Yep.
like what is it?
You would
Yeah.
have killed it in a sorority.
Maybe. Yeah.
You would
Yeah,
have.
probably.
I lost my call. I like missed my calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, fraternity life is awesome. It's terrible, but awesome. It was amazing for us because we didn't know anybody when we showed up, especially Paul. You know, he had a year where when he was a freshman, he really didn't know anybody. Whereas, Paul was there when I showed up. So that was nice to have my brother there. But it was just a built-in family just from day one. It's just like you are kind of forced to get to know everybody, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You get to know everyone in your fraternity. And so just having a family and just friends right when you get there was super awesome. It sucked sometimes because everyone had house jobs. So, freshmen, we got to clean bathrooms and
Woof,
scrub.
that would be terrible.
Yeah, so you probably don't want to, but you can imagine what a bathroom that 60 guys use looks like. It's not pretty, but we actually kept it pretty clean, surprisingly. So we had house jobs. We shared meals together, which is awesome. Most guys ate all at the same time, so just everybody down in the cafeteria or the kitchen, just all eating together like a big family style. Yeah, so it was just a built-in family. Is really what it was. So it was awesome.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So then freshman year kind of goes by, and then you're getting more developed into your pathway of what was your degree at the end of it?
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with what I'm doing now, other than the fact that so I was a classics major,
Cool.
which is Greece and Rome, and I like to say that the Greeks and the Romans knew how to tell a story. And so that's kind of like the big crossover with what I do now is really all I do is capture and tell stories. And so, but really I just loved it. I loved Latin. I had 2 semesters where I didn't take it. One of them was when I was in New York, but I took Latin every semester other than that. I love Greek and Roman art and archaeology. So classics major, but then an art minor. So I was a studio art minor, but an emphasis on digital art. So pretty much all my art classes were digital. So that kind of just built the foundation of animation, video, photo, podcasting, all that.
So one of the things that I know from talking to you is you really enjoy doing motion media.
Mm-hmm. Motion design. Sorry about that. No, that's all right.
I'm learning the terminology. I probably still will say it wrong going forward, but just know the intention, like I'm trying to be better.
The intent is there.
Yeah.
I think that's the right term, motion design, but yeah, animation.
So why, like, what is so intriguing about that style of digital media?
Yeah. I just like the fact that, so I use a program called After Effects by Adobe, and it's the hardest program I've ever used, and I still feel like I'm a beginner every time I use it, even though I've been using it every day for the last year, 2 years, and then also in school. It's a little daunting because the possibilities are endless, but I just like the fact that if I can come up with it and somehow get it to work, it can happen. That there's no excuses of like, oh, well, I would do it, but can't really figure out how to do it on this computer or whatever. It's like you're not limited by anything other than your own skill and creativity.
And where were you exposed to this?
Yeah, so I took a experimental animation course in college, and we use After Effects, and yeah, I just got way into it.
Fell in love.
Yeah, fell in love with it. Yeah, I remember my final project. It was an experimental animation on, like, kind of conceptual animation on the metamorphosis of a caterpillar turning to a butterfly. And at the time I was reading Metamorphoses, which is a collection of poems by Ovid in Latin. But anyway, it all ties back to classics. But anyway, I spent probably twice as much time on it, maybe more than any other person in the class, just because I just got like so deep with it, and it was one of the funnest projects I ever did. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool.
Well, so was that like your favorite project you've ever done, or what would you say would be your favorite project you've ever worked on?
My favorite project,
besides our podcast, obviously.
Yeah, obviously we know. We just don't even.
I don't know. It's like kids. You can't pick a favorite. You should.
Except your parent. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Except I know
Except for I know I am the golden one.
It's got to be my short film based on another Latin poem. And so I actually I recorded my professor. He retired, but I went to his house and got him to read just this one section about how it's basically the creation of man, where these stones started rolling down a hill and softening and became humans. And there's a line where it says, like, because of this, humans are a tough breed. Mm-hmm. And it's all based around the fact that humans, you know, we're creative and we make things. I was also doing ceramics at the time.
That's a fun class to take,
yeah,
too. I think that's the cool part of liberal arts colleges. You get some of that exposure to some of the arts and things like that you don't get in some of the other colleges.
Yeah, I mean, some people could argue it's like you paid a lot of money to take ceramics, and that's definitely true. I paid a lot of money to take ceramics, but being creative and just exploring all these different creative avenues definitely led the path to what I do today. But anyway, this short film I did was about me creating this final project for ceramics, which is also a final project for a video class I was doing. So I got to, it's a film about me finishing a ceramics project. I'm a human. I'm the tough breed making art. And at the same time, my professor is reading these lines at the same time. So you can actually watch it. It's called A Tough Breed.
We're going to find
It's on
that.
YouTube.
So were you filming yourself, right? So you went and did the audio with your professor, which is cool. He still lived there. Like, he didn't retire and move away.
Professor Kubiak.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And then you're videoing right all by yourself. You're doing all of this. Like you come up
You're
with
knocking
the
out
concept.
3 finals in one.
Exactly. Yeah. That definitely was the senior in me. Just kind of
you worked
wrap it all into
smarter,
one. Yeah,
not
definitely.
harder.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that semester. It was awesome. But yeah, I was videoing myself. I actually just got a camera. This really leads into Lamplighter Creative now. That's the summer before I started working with Sam Steingruber with Samuel Roland Films.
Would you come back then? So in the
Yep.
summers, did you come back every summer?
I came back every summer. Yeah, I love it in Billings. And so I had done some podcasts. I had done some photography. And I was kind of, I finished my junior year. And I was thinking, okay, I got to kind of start figuring out, I got to get a job and stuff after this. So I was thinking, okay, it's got to be something digital media related. I have no idea what. I actually, I talked to the radio station in town a little bit, did some exploring, but I remember talking to my parents about it, just going, you know what? Sam does video. That's totally like all the digital media stuff I've been doing all wrapped into one. I should talk to him.
And how did you know Sam?
Good question. Sam was my drum teacher back in the day. Yep.
I had no idea Sam knows how to play the drums.
Yeah, he's the best drummer I know for sure. But and so we talk about drumming all the time. We share an office now, so we talk about drumming and music all the time. But
I think we should have a drum off. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. He would definitely. Well, we shouldn't do it because he would win. So let's just not do it. But so I knew Sam. He's one of my favorite people just to begin with. He's awesome. And so the day after I mentioned, I should probably talk to Sam, he called me and said, hey, I know you're kind of interested in doing digital media. Do you want to work with me this summer? I was like, wow. Yes, I do. So I got plugged in with him.
This is funny because I was calling you.
Yeah, seriously.
Divine intervention.
Yeah, I don't know. God, the universe, whatever it was, definitely was one of those things that's like, yeah, you don't take that lightly. Like it kind of feels like it happened for a reason. So I got a camera from Sam. I bought his old camera, and then that's what I made the short film with. But I was getting a little more experience filming, definitely a lot of experience editing. And then, that year I did the ceramics and the Latin and all that. And then after I graduated, I worked part-time for a guy named Dave who does shelving here in town, CSI Shelving. So if you need any industrial shelving, definitely check him out. But I worked part-time for him and then part-time for Sam and then slowly trying to get some projects on my own. So then the start of 2023, I was completely on my own with Lamplighter Creative.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yep.
So where did the name come from?
I should definitely come up with a cool story about the origin of Lamplighter Creative. At the time I was starting to get some paychecks of doing projects with Sam and with other folks. And it's like, man, I got to make this legit. Got to register my business name.
Follow the steps to establish a business in the state of Montana.
Exactly.
We highly recommend that to not get in trouble.
I really wish I had that guide on Rock 31's website at the time, but it's still, I still reference that pretty often because I'm in the process of getting everything. I think I got everything done now. Thanks to Lorene. So shout out to Lorene. But so I needed to come up with a DBA and register my business with the state of Montana and all that, which is awesome work. Thank you, Kayla. That's cool stuff. But and I just had to come up with something like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. My last name is really long and hard to spell and hard to say, so I didn't want to do like Hazelmeyer or anything. I knew I wanted to do something with light because light's kind of the, you can film whatever you want, but if you don't have enough light, it's going to look terrible. So light's actually more important than the video camera or the video equipment. So I knew I wanted to do something with light. I just like the way Lamplighter sounded. Just kind of rolls off the tongue. And then creative, because I still had no idea what facet of digital media I wanted to do. So that
keeps you open for anything.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So, because at the time I was pretty much just doing video, and then, but I knew I wanted to start getting into motion design and animation. So I just did creative to like kind of cover all my bases. And yeah.
Cool.
I just like the sound of it.
No, I think it's great too. So I think we always like hearing when someone has a business, a company, where did they get the name? You know, there's always different stories.
Sometimes there's like a huge background to it. You know, I think of like Swanky Roots. That's a family name. And so they made it that way because it meant something to them. But so we always like to know.
We like to know. Yeah.
So here you are, young entrepreneur. What have you learned being your own boss at such a young age and taking the bull by the horns?
Sure. It's funny. I feel like all I do is learn, which is awesome. And, you know, every single day it's like, wow, I don't do that next time, or definitely need to do that better next time, whatever. So every day I'm learning new things. And, yeah, I guess if I were to boil it down into like, what have I learned overall, it would just be flexible. Don't be afraid to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, and it's actually really helpful to be wrong. You learn a lot more when you're when you're wrong than when you're
sticks
when
in
you're
your
right.
mind a little differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone. It's funny. I was just talking to Sam about this, but everyone has one of those stories as a business owner where you're like, where something totally terrible happens, and now you'll never make that mistake again. And that just happened to me not that long ago, where I plugged a microphone into the wrong channel and basically found out that all my audio was messed up for like 2/3 of the shoot. And
oh, shoot.
Yeah. And, but now it's like, I will never do that ever again.
Nope.
You know, so.
You won't.
And I'll double check.
Yeah. Triple check. Yeah. So I'm constantly learning, but also like, I think it's cool. This is a really good reminder to me, and hopefully anybody listening, it's a good reminder, is I'm getting paid to learn. It's like I'm charging, this is work that I'm doing, and I'm charging money for this, but I'm also learning. So it's like, it's actually pretty amazing that I get the opportunity to, I'm making things that people like and help their businesses, but it's also, I'm getting paid to figure this out.
And evolve, and styles change and
Totally.
things like that. Like even Maddie, I remember when we first started working with her, and she's like one of our first episodes. Even now, just seeing like her editing style and everything, and it was so great initially, but it's just evolved, and it's it's just a little different, but like still so great. And but it just evolves as you
totally
move through the process.
But I think that helps you be successful is because you're still intrigued in learning new things. And so I think if you went into this and you're like, well, I've learned what I've learned, and now I'm just going to do my business.
Right.
That not willing to learn more or make changes or adapt with things that are coming your way, having that flexibility, that's what actually is going to make you a successful entrepreneur and business owners, because you're having that future sight.
Yeah. I mean, I would not get very far if I didn't learn along the way.
Yeah.
And accept that I was wrong many, many times. And
it's humbling.
Yeah. I feel like that happens
totally.
like in any job though. You're like, oh, won't do that again. Or I just think in anything you're doing, like you're always learning.
Totally.
And you're like, oh, that's not happening again. Or like, oh, that worked really great. I'll do that again. That seemed to work really well. So what are some projects that you're really I know you added our podcast, but what are some other things for those listening that you're leaning into with your business also? Yeah,
good question. This last summer, I got to work with a lot of new clients and take on a lot of new work. I can't share all the details, but I will say definitely a lot more motion design, definitely taking video to the next level. I've gotten a lot better with video. I feel like even the video I made for this podcast, I'm like, wow, I should redo that. I'm way better now. But yeah, definitely a lot of animation coming up that I'm really proud of, and hoping to do a lot more motion design, especially I've done a lot of logo animations for companies.
Cool.
And which is awesome, but I'm trying to start venturing into new ways of doing motion design where it's not just the logo, but I'm actually taking something that a graphic designer makes and then add motion to it. So it just takes, like a still ad on Facebook or whatever. It looks good. You're like, yeah, that's nice. But then adding a little bit of motion to it just draws the eye to it so much more. And so that's definitely the I think anyway, constantly learning, but I think that's kind of the direction that I want to head in is, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm a motion designer. So getting someone who is really good at graphic design to make something really cool, and I get to just make it a little bit cooler. And so that's definitely the avenue I'm headed down.
That's exciting.
At least I think.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, I think that's exciting, and I think there's a lot of work and new things. You don't see that a ton right now in our market.
Yeah,
so I think
definitely.
as you are sort of pioneering and leading that, is exciting for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, Wade, it is always a pleasure to have conversations with you. And we always like to end our episode with rapid fire questions.
As you know.
Sure.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center provides you with free one-on-one counseling, business plan assistance, marketing research, financial projection assistance, and more to small businesses.
All right, Wade. My first rapid fire question for you is, what is your favorite Vault episode?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Because you get to listen to them
Any
raw.
of them
Yeah.
that aren't even out yet.
Ooh,
That's
yep,
okay to
yep.
say. Yeah.
Man, that's a great question. This is kind of the perfect episode to ask that, because I've listened to every single one of them.
You
really have.
we can't ask that to anybody else.
I know.
Except maybe Jake.
Yeah, we could ask Jake.
Okay.
From State Farm. No, I'm just kidding. From our house.
He should dress up like Jake from State Farm for Halloween.
I know.
And yeah, I'll just say thank you to everybody listening. I feel like that's a good opportunity to thank them. It's awesome that people learn from these. But man, my favorite one, that's tough. I really liked Maddie's. She was one of the first ones. Hers was really good.
We've seen a lot of growth from our first couple of episodes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think my favorite's got to be Jeff from Zoo, Montana.
His was
so good.
Yeah.
Jeff is awesome.
He made us hold tarantulas that day.
That is epic.
I
wish I was
stopped
there for
breathing.
that. Wow.
There's a video
We
of
should
it.
have even found, I don't know if you were here. You probably would have heard a lot of ruckus happening in this space.
Yep.
We can take you next time we go to the zoo because he
that'd
let
be
us
awesome.
touch the sloth.
We fed Winston.
Winston, the
We'll
sloth?
take you. Yeah.
It was pretty cool because he just takes his like little paws. He's like such an
He has
elegant
like
eater.
claws, like two big claws, and then like a weird like pincher thing.
And then he like pinches it and he goes.
But like in a sloth, like
That's
sloth.
awesome.
It was pretty cool,
But
but
slower than that?
we learned a lot of things. Like they can't eat a lot of greens because they can't pass gas, and so if they eat too many
Wow.
greens, it kills them. And then
Wow.
Kayla thought he was going somewhere else, like it gives them a lot of gas, and I laughed. And then he was like, and then it kills them, and I was like,
Oh, shouldn't laugh at that.
And they don't move a lot, they're really fast swimmers.
we didn't know that.
Swimmers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
so-
people like Jeff, that's so cool. There's
Yeah,
people like
his
that.
story's really cool.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
think
like
his is
Jeff
my
when I
favorite.
grow up. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
The zoo's lucky. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the next question. What is one of your favorite summer activities to do in Montana?
There is a endless list of activities to do.
I know I
pretty
put that one there
active
because you
guy.
are an active
Yeah, you're
outside
active.
outdoorsy guy.
Yep, definitely. I didn't used to be super outdoorsy, but my wife is like the biggest outdoor badass. And so I have become a lot more active and outdoorsy since meeting her, which is awesome. I mean, camping is the best. We love camping in Red Lodge, but also riding my bike to work has got to be like one of my favorite things to do ever.
Do you have a basket for snacks?
I do not have a basket for snacks, but I do have a bike rack and I have 2 huge bags that I stuff everything in and carry it every single morning. It's really heavy, but yeah, I love biking to work. It's funny, like when I was little, I wanted to be a paleontologist. And then of course I matured a little bit and decided engineer, which we've heard that didn't work out.
It's
but,
okay.
But one of my dreams for work was to be able to bike to work. Like that was like a really simple one. It's like,
Isn't it funny though how some of those
Yeah.
things just like happen and then you look back and
Totally.
you're like,
If you believe it, it will happen.
That as a little kid, and here I am doing that.
Yeah, so I love biking. So yeah, biking to work is the best. That's something I really like doing in the summer. Mountain biking is also something I love doing in the summer. Definitely biking. That's got to be my favorite.
I like that. That's great.
So you bring up my mountain biking, and it made me think of this video I watched where these people were mountain biking in Alaska, and this bear just came out of the woods and like just knocked this guy off his bike and then just took off. But it was like the bear.
Took off.
Well, yeah, it was like I don't even know if the bear like knew that they were there, but he was just like, and I was like, well, whatever's chasing that bear to make him run that way, you should get back on your bike.
Yeah, definitely.
And keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to be hurt. I mean, you literally were just plowed through by a bear, I mean, this was like a grizzly bear. Like,
jeez, I fall off my bike every once in a while. I fell off my bike a couple weeks ago, and it hurts. And that was just me falling over. So getting hit by a bear would be.
I'll have to find the video and send it to you because I was like,
we could go bike riding with you, but then I'm like, no, Kayla and I couldn't keep up on our tandem bike. So her tandem bike.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but we're definitely going to put a basket for snacks on our
snack basket, flat surfaces like pavement, for example. Yeah,
definitely.
Yes, parking lots with no cars.
Sure.
We're good at turning.
We're really good at turning. And it was so hot the day that we were riding that tandem bike that we were in suits and heels that we are so excited to just pedal to where there was a breeze.
Sure.
And so
Maddie's like, just back up, and we're like, we're just gonna do a loop real quick.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, and we were like, no, we need to do this.
I feel like podcast host chemistry is a good indicator of whether or not you can ride a tandem bike.
Right. I know we did really well. I was unsurprised.
There's good reason for that.
Like, of course we did well.
Yeah. Tandem really bike, surprisingly hard. I rode a tandem bike with my father-in-law once.
Wow.
And luckily he was in the front because I think the front kind of has more of the balance and like controlling everything. But I was just along for the ride. It's hard.
It is hard.
It is really hard. And I have to say, like, I have control issues, and so I would be like wanting to steer, and Marcel would be like, just trust me. And I'm like, I do. But then I'd try to move my handlebars and it would move the seat on her. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry because I know how uncomfortable that front seat is. I think I'm actually going to get those like foam gel things for the covers because I'll be honest, my butt hurt for a few days. Sure. It hurt.
Yeah, I wear special shorts when I ride to work.
Yeah, you got to have like the bubble bottoms.
You got to wear the shorts. It's key.
I know. All right, our last rapid fire question, which is I think your favorite rapid fire question. I'm dying to know the answer. What is your favorite car?
Favorite car, dream car.
I tried to make that suspenseful.
Yeah, it was suspenseful. Other than the fact that I knew you were going to ask that question, so I guess it wasn't, but suspenseful for the listener. You know, I think about cars probably too often, but too
often.
Yeah, a lot.
They break into my brain quite often.
I have a Pontiac 5 and I love it. I'll just say that. Like, I already have a really good car and I'm very grateful for it. Someday I hope I have a Land Cruiser. I drove a friend of mine's Land Cruiser and it's awesome. But like dream car would probably be a BMW M1.
Ooh, what is that? Is that like
BMW?
I'm gonna go
it's the first mid-engine BMW. They were originally supposed to make it with Lamborghini, but then it didn't work out, so they just made it.
They just did it themselves.
And it's like just a super sweet, boxy 80s.
Love that.
Yeah, 80s BMWs are so sweet. They're just so boxy and
Have you driven one?
A BMW?
Yeah, the one that you want.
A BMW M1?
Yes.
No, I have not driven one. That would, I mean, it'd be a dream just to drive one.
There was one like in Billings, you know, that
no, that'd be sweet. I mean, I've seen a DeLorean in town. That's kind of similar.
I
think Nathan Satrin has
I want to change my dream car to a DeLorean that is completely retrofitted to be the Back to the Future DeLorean.
You want a DeLorean that can travel back in time.
Absolutely.
Caitlin wants a time traveler.
Yeah, that's a dream car.
It would be a dream car. I mean, for my practical, be my Toyota 4Runner.
Of course.
For my
dream car,
I want a time traveling DeLorean. The doors and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The DeLorean.
Sure. I think, dream car, we've been just kind of lacks with dream car. I mean, time traveling car really would be dream
Kayla's
car.
going above and beyond again.
Kayla
Again.
kills it. It
Yeah,
took
you
me
kinda
months, but I got there.
That's awesome. I mean, in that
Half a
case,
year. Wait, do you want to change your mind?
Slow to the draw.
yeah, I
BMW
mean,
M1.
BMW a
80s
McLaren
version.
F1 would be awesome too. Though there's only like 100 of those that's ever been made. That would be a dream.
But you
car.
could like go like, I need the James Bond car that's like retrofitted with like
Aston Martin.
Yeah, the whole all the seats, like
Yeah.
The song's playing in
you know,
my head.
ejectable seats and the guns that come out of the lights.
They have a version of that at the Spy Museum in DC.
That's awesome.
See that you could change it to that if you wanted
Okay.
to.
No,
You don't
I'm not
have
a big
to.
spy person.
Oh, see that would be cool. Be like,
Yeah, or just like the Batmobile from
See, the
Christopher
Batmobile would be really
Nolan.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
you
the
want
big-
that Batmobile?
Yeah, the one that's like a tank
Oh,
I also
like a
want the
takeover.
underground cave
Yeah.
shop thing.
Yeah, it
that's
would have to
happening.
come with the whole
and a
getup.
butler.
I think that'd
And
be
Robin.
great. Yeah. Or
be
not
definitely-
Robin. I mean, just the cave, the car, the butler. I'd be great.
Yeah.
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 Well, now I
Much
feel like I
delayed.
need to reevaluate because I shouldn't say I would get like Doc and Marty. And they're pretty cool,
They're
but
pretty cool.
They are
yeah.
cool.
Wade, it's been so much fun having you on
Thank
the
you.
podcast.
Man, time
Thank you.
flies.
It
I didn't
does
realize how
fly.
quickly this went.
This was exciting.
now you know why sometimes we go over.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh my God, conversation's great.
Yeah. Editing, I get lost in editing, but it definitely feels like it takes a lot longer than making one.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
super
no, it
fun.
You
definitely
have the
does.
harder job for sure.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on. It's
Thank
a pleasure,
you.
like I said, to hang out with you anytime. And thanks for making our podcast sound amazing.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks, Wade.
Thanks. Thank you for joining. You can find the resources and tools mentioned in today's episode at thevault201.com. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and share with a friend.